Alright everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to take your run-of-the-mill Spirit Halloween $5.99 hockey mask and make it actually pretty cool. And to create this effect, I'm going to be using things that I just had around my garage. I have wood stain, red spray paint, black spray paint, a torch, a butane torch, and a couple different kinds of sandpaper. 400 is ideal, but you can get away with 800. And let's get started. First off, with the Spirit Halloween hockey mask, I like it because it's so thick and robust. It doesn't deflect very easily, unlike the grocery grade, which is just all and it will never look like a Jason mask, no matter how much you try to paint it like one. So we'll just catalog that over here, and then you have your run-of-the-mill Walmart one, which also, you can just go right here. What we're going to want to do is create the holes that are in the original Fibrosport hockey mask, the goaltender mask that Jason wore. And to do that, you have to bring 2 holes out and then 2 more up on top. Then you have to put 2 more in a row here. And then you have to do the corner holes, which are pretty easy because you just go along the edge. Just a little space in between. Actually goes along the edge of the mask, and then you go up at an extreme angle. And what you can do is when you mark it on the mask, you can make a template of that, because this pattern repeats all the way around. It just flips. So what I did is I just took some foil HVAC tape, folded it over on itself so both sticky sides are touching one another so it's easy to handle, and I just knocked 3 holes in it. So you have the 2 for the outside, and then there's 1 at the extreme angle. So I actually put an arrow for my starting position, so I put it there and there, and then I flipped it and drilled it there and there. So that makes it easy to recreate the pattern all the way around the mask without just completely messing up. Alright, now for the paint job. I know I changed this one up a little bit. These are supposed to be a little lower, but I'll do that on this one. I just like to mix things up a little bit. You're going to need some Scotch tape. You don't have to have a mini tape gun, just a roll of Scotch tape. Scotch tape was originally created to pinstripe cars, as a matter of fact, and it leaves a very crisp line. Except for in here where I intentionally smeared it to make it look like you got hit with something in the head. But this works really well. The first step you're going to want to do is take your 400 and take the shine off this plastic. Just keep rubbing it until it's dull, like an eggshell. Now all you want to do is you want to stay vertical all the way. You don't want to do swirls or anything, alright? Just go up and down all across the mask until you start seeing the shine disappear, like this. Just do the whole mask that way. And honestly, you're probably going to want to do front and back, because what I like to do with mine is paint the inside black so you don't get that reflective shine when you're walking around from the white, because that's really irritating. Alright, now that it's largely flat white all over, I do love that there is a casting imperfection right here, so I can use that to my advantage. What we're going to want to do is start marking out where the holes go. And we can start off easy and just by following kind of how they're spaced, just bring down 2 more at an angle right here. So take you a Sharpie and just don't make a big circle, because you're going to want to drill it out without there being a black line around it. Just put a dot where you want it. That's it. You can also use a pencil. It's kind of easy to erase it. Just sand it off. In this case, I'm just going to lay the mask I already made over, because I want it to loosely mimic this one. And since it overlaps a little bit, I'm going off center of it, so the holes will be in the exact same spot. Then we'll go ahead and make the spot for the nose hole, because a lot of the grocery grade ones will give you 2 nostrils, when in fact Jason had 1 big nostril, which is just a slight little bit larger than the mouth holes, if not the exact same size. So I'll go ahead and get these drilled out. Use a small drill bit first. Now the nose one's a little hard to get centered, but if you're a little off when you go to drill the bigger hole, you can kind of just round it off to bring it back in a little bit, back onto center. So we're going to start off that one. Being careful not to drill through your hand. You're going to want to do this on the bench, so do as I say, not as I do. Alright. And for the placement of the other holes, what we can do is you can just bring up your favorite photo of an original FibroSport mask. This is the FibroSport fiberglass goaltender mask that originally was the Jason mask. Now you'll notice they actually have a little bit more of a space from the edge, but since this one's a little smaller, I just kind of brought them out a little bit to kind of fill it out. But what I did was I just made this little template, and I can just figure out where I want it to be on the mask and just lay it there, making sure that you have an even gap around the edge, and then mark it. So you'll have 2 that are along the edge and then 1 that's up at that case. So as you can see, I've just gone ahead and dotted them in. So I have pilots for those, and then you could bring it up here and mark you another set, and then flip it, come over here and mark you another one, and you're ready to drill those holes. Alright, now that I have all of my holes mapped out, we can take our small drill bit and just start punching them through. Now that all of the pilot holes are drilled in the mask, we can open them up using one of these. I got these from Harbor Freight, but they're little step drill bits, so you can just kind of drill whatever size hole you want. And let me just double check here. Alright, yeah, they're all 7/16 that I've drilled in this one, because I went off of the size of the hole for the mouth. I wanted it to be uniform all the way through. Now you can kind of taper it. Like with these, I went to 13/32 just on these, because there's not a lot of room to drill holes, so I just went a size under. I love these. They're very cheap, and you can get them with the coupon, which not many things at Harbor Freight you can get with the coupon anymore, because they've put so many exceptions on them. But you just start drilling. Just like that. Cool. There's one side. Now just complete the mask. That's starting to look pretty good. Now you can just wear it like this, or we can ugly it up a little bit, which I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to replicate the look of this one that I did the other day. So to do that, what I figured is, why try to make paint look like damage when you could just have actual damage? All these burn marks are burn marks. The paint is paint, and the damage is really broken. So, alright, I'm going to start off by chucking this 2x4 in the vise. And what I can do is I can pick the corner I want to break, and to give it a more realistic feel, or at least to me, I use a real cleaver. This is a real vintage cleaver that I found at a yard sale, and best dollar I ever spent. What I will do is I will lay this in here and just break it. And I'm going to change the camera angle for this because I need to be able to get exactly where the tripod is. What I decided to do on the last one was to break out these two air holes. Like if somebody was fighting back and they just kind of like whacked him in the head and just chipped a big section of his mask off. What I want to do, this part's kind of tedious, is you can just start whacking it until pieces start coming off. That way it looks like they got hit with something, like maybe a piece of rebar or something. And then obviously down here, these two screw holes, or breather holes, I can just and then just kind of, what I like to do is kind of leave some ragged edges. And if you're still not quite happy with your damage, you can also trim it up with wire cutters. If you want to do it the regular way, that is. Do that. And then kind of ragged up the edge. What we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to put our graphics on here, such as the red markings on the mask itself, right here. Like I said earlier, these are up too high, but I'm going to move the new ones down where they're supposed to be. This is why we practice. I mean, this still looks cool, but it's not accurate. And I highly recommend Scotch tape. The clear Scotch tape. It really works. It is so nice. Now I'm just eyeballing this. I mean, this isn't going to be 100% accurate. I mean, this mask is going to have its faults, but it's going to be so much cooler than it was. Now it helps to take a pencil and mark your center line here in between the eyebrows. It really does help line up everything. Just kind of use your best judgment. You can erase it before you paint it. Obviously you don't want to paint over your pencil mark. Then I can bring in the bottom edges of the, I'm going to call it the chevron shape here. Okay, give ourselves our stripes. And we'll pick out the depth of them here in just a minute. I want it to be kind of in line with the top of the nose. It's definitely something you don't want to do Halloween Day, because obviously drying time of the paint, you might be able to pull it off, but definitely not recommended. It is 91 degrees in my garage right now, so kind of sweating. I hope the paint doesn't fisheye on me, which it probably will. But if it does, I'll just roll with it, because I mean, it's supposed to look kind of beat up, right? I mean, I'm not looking for, like, you know, the shiny, beautiful mask or anything. I want imperfections. That's what makes it cool. That's what we want. Always make sure you shake your paint well and that your tip isn't clogged. Just spray it into your trash can or whatever. There we go. Nice and red. Then you just want to try to hit the area that needs paint just lightly. Don't just wail on it. Just dust it, dust it, dust it, and give it a minute. Because that's going to be your foundation for the paint job. If you just blaze it on there, it's going to run under the tape, it's going to go over the top of the tape, and when you go to peel the tape off, it's going to take the paint with it. So you want a good foundation. This stuff dries pretty quick. It says 15 minutes, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fan it around for a minute just to let it set. And then we're going to hit it again. And that's going to be good enough. If there's thin spots, oh well. Again, we're looking for character. And always peel your masking off when the paint is still tacky. Don't wait till it dries or you're gonna lift the paint. I am realizing that I did not erase my pencil line, but I'm gonna work with it. I mean, again, that looks really slick already. That was a really good paint job. I love how sharp the edges come out with Scotch tape. So, always use that. Painter's tape, masking tape is only good for masking everything else. Normally you would want to let this cure, but I'm impatient and I don't like how bright this red is. So you can actually take your torch, turn it down to the lowest setting, and if you, let me bring it into the light here, if you hit the red paint, it'll darken immediately. It'll bring out that pigment in there and darken it up. Not to mention, you're curing the paint. Don't hold it there for a long time. Just swipe over it and leave. Swipe over it and leave. Just like that. Now we can start aging it. Just take just a cheap brush and your wood stain. This one's just a wood stain prep. It's colonial maple. But it's all I had. My neighbor found it in the trash and brought it to me, and that's why I'm using it. And you're going to want a really dirty, kind of gross rag. Because again, if it's got like grease and stuff in it, it's perfect. What's better than real dirt? You can use a clean rag. I mean, this is just what I have right here. And you don't want to just cover the whole mask right away. Just kind of spread it all around, and it'll stick where you've roughed up the plastic. And it'll kind of help soak in and stain it. I wouldn't worry about it dripping through the back. We're going to wipe that here in a minute. And make sure you get all the way down in the damage. All the way down in the damage. All the way around, because we're going to want to darken that damage with the fire. And now what we're going to do, we can do this in different stages. We can wipe it now. Don't wipe it off too clean. You're going to want some streaks. You want to save some of the dirt. And leaving it around the edges and like around the eye sockets and stuff like that. I'm actually going to back this up just a little bit so we can manage to get everything in the shot. Get the nose, all around up in the nostril. You can just keep thinning it until you're pretty much dry brushing it around the edges. That gives you a really good effect. Just try to stay with the same grain that you sanded into it. You don't want to go this way or it's not going to settle in the grain. Take some of this, bring it over here. Doesn't matter if you get it on the strap. Once it dries, you really can't see it. At least not on the strap. Now he just looks like he ate SpaghettiOs. And not even the good ones. The ones with the horrible tomato sauce and not Frank's. You need to have the Frank's in your life. Or that's just not right. Alright, that's our first stage of the stain. We can come along and wipe the back so we're not getting everything all fingerprinty, you know. Just wipe it. And we don't even really want to wait for this to dry. We want to take our torch and just start drying it on our own. And see how it starts turning black? It's got a few different shades in there. There's almost a burgundy in there. And we're going to want to go all around all the breathing holes and around the top. But only hang out in one area for a couple seconds. You can come back to it later. Just let it cool. Go up in the damage. Darken all of the damage. I'm going to come back to that. Go all up around the eye, all up around here, all down over the nose, like if stuff was kind of running down his face. Want to get all the holes all around the bottom edge, because I mean this guy gets lit on fire and everything, so there's going to be all kinds of different things going on with this mask. And once you burn it on here, when you put the second layer on, it doesn't go away. If you let this dry and you put a second coat on and you go to wipe it off, it's just going to wipe off to look like the first coat. So just take your time. Try not to heat it up too much, because then it gets a little intense to touch it. Just kind of do some odd angles here. That looks really neat. Over the holes, in the holes. We can clean up the holes later. Just hit them again with the drill bit or whatever if you mess them up too bad. I may have messed the nose up just now actually. And while it's still soft, you can kind of push it back out, which is fine because you want him to look beat up, like really, like he had a rough day, you know. Now what I can do is put just a little bit more stain down in the damage, and then just immediately start caramelizing that stain. It really helps give the damage the depth it commands, because you want it to look deep, because it kind of is, but when everything's just stark white all the time, it's hard to tell. Now I'm going to let that sit and cool so I don't start melting things. Alright, and taking you some black spray paint and a mixing cup, spray you a little bit of black paint in here, and then taking your brush that already has the stain on it, mix it together in that black paint, and it'll give you kind of this dirty kind of brown, kind of a blackish brown, and you can go around and highlight areas like your cracks and breaks, and it'll get down in all the scratches and stuff like that, and you're going to want to wipe it off, and it will stay down in those crevices. It might take a little bit of the stain off, but we have a couple more layers of stain to do before we're done, and then I can take the little torch and just lightly burn around it. And we'll also soften the area up a little bit so you can start kind of bending things to look kind of warped, to where it's not too hot to mess with it. Start opening up some of the broken stuff. See? Starting to look kind of dirty in there. That's good. That's what we want. Just start going over those areas, leaving it kind of heavy around the edges. And we don't want to wipe the edges too much, just the face. Now we can wipe them lightly, but leave some stuff around the edges here and there, because when you hit it with the torch, it'll darken them up like this, and it looks fantastic, leaving some of the swoosh marks on here like you got hit with a hockey puck or something. That's starting to look really cool. Heating this back up, obviously, to bring this back up. Rough it back up. Opening that crack just a little bit and kind of closing the gap. We're going to go all around it. Get it in the crack. And then I don't want to wipe it off completely from around the crack, because I want it to be like fire, like this whole area just got burnt or seared off. So I want to hit this with the heat, really darken that up, Then you're going to want to keep massaging that to stay where you want it, unfortunately. And we can actually just kind of sand over it. And that takes a lot of the high spots out of it, so it just looks like a broken, dirty gash now. And this is where we can just kind of start going all over the mask in little areas. Kind of, you can wipe in different directions on the second coat, especially when you're wiping off. You want it to look like some people actually tried to fight back. So just take it and just, you can even dab it to kind of give it that dirt appearance, like dirt splatter. Kind of do a mix of both and kind of go in different directions. Really helps bring out that effect. And you can go around and darken up your areas here again. Especially around the burn, just kind of re-highlight that. It's kind of a burn mixed with a break. I've got a scuff mark here that I left it kind of heavy. The same right here. Just kind of burn it in, darken it up. You don't have to darken the whole thing up. Leave some of the orangey brown. I had one somewhere. If you've got a black paint pen, you can also use it to highlight some areas. And go around your burns and breaks with it so they look really dirty. Like they've been at the bottom of a lake, kind of dirty. Kind of paint it, burn it, paint it, burn it, sand it, repeat. I find that burning the stain kind of gives you a more convincing flame effect, because you do actually get a little bit of ash coming off of it. So if you just brush it on and then burn the crud out of your edges real quick. It helps to have some water handy too that you can just keep dipping the mask in, but I did not set any out. I mean, it's not too hot to the touch. This plastic softens up at a fairly low temp. Just trying to keep everything in shape. I'm really beginning to like that bottom break and that head wound. Really starting to enjoy that. You can even go put this under the sink and just start scrubbing on it with your wet sanding paper, and you can kind of get some cool effects, some highlights out of it. Now I'm just taking the dry part of the rag and just scrubbing it in a few places, like on top of the nose, anywhere that might have been rubbed clean. Any of the high spots on the edges of the eyes, across the face. Put a little scuff here and there. And that's how you get a mask that looks a lot better than your grocery store grade trash. Alright, lastly you're going to want to take some solvent and wipe the back side of the mask, getting rid of the heavier drips, just the heavy drips. Anywhere where it's just kind of like wiped like spaghetti sauce, just leave it. And what I usually like to do is I like to take some spray paint, some black spray paint. You can do it in flat black. I usually do gloss because it's tougher. The flat tends to get sticky when it's against your skin. This has enamel, so I like to spray around the eyes and across all the holes. It doesn't have to be an even coat, it can be light, because I mean, again, we're looking for a weathered look, even on the inside, just to kind of complete the whole thing. And just let that dry. It doesn't show through, just let it dry. And how it will look when you're done is I'll actually hit it with the torch every now and then to knock down some of the shine, but it just looks like a dirty, gross hockey mask. And that's perfect. I'm gonna go hang this on my daughter's wall, actually. She's kind of into the horror movies, so I'm gonna hang this up there, put a couple machetes on the wall. I have an old chainsaw I could probably hang up, and I'm gonna show the final product here in a little bit, but this is what we got right now. I'm gonna let this all cure up, because the colors will kind of change a little bit as it dries. So I'm gonna set this over here, and we'll have a look at it in just... Alright guys, here's the final reveal. It's all dry. Have it sitting on a concrete skull I made a couple of years ago. That looks pretty nice. I really like how the head wound came out. And this bottom gash. Also, I wanted to point out that the hockey mask I used was the white plastic hockey mask at Spirit and not the glow-in-the-dark hockey mask. They're completely different plastic. This one's not located on the regular mask wall in the store. It is actually located in two other places around the outer edge of the store, like where there's other costumes. They just have it stabbed in two other places. I don't know why they don't have this right next to the glow-in-the-dark mask, but don't use the glow-in-the-dark mask. It's partially translucent, and it's different plastic, and it probably won't hold up to the heating and stuff as well as this one will. So if you go to Spirit, make sure to look for just the plain white hockey mask that doesn't glow in the dark. Alright guys, this concludes the tutorial on how to basically make over your $5.99 Spirit Halloween hockey mask. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. If you have a comment, leave it down below, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.